Hi, Professor. This is Julian reporting live from the rec center, and today I will be demonstrating the push-up, the pull-up, and the deadlift. So we're going to begin with the pull-up, and we're going to be demonstrating on the stretching bar right here. And so you're going to begin first by placing your hands all the way there. Alright, so we're going to begin by placing your hands on the bar, and you're going to have your palms facing away from you just like this. And that's how you're going to grip the bar. You're going to have it on top just like this. And now you want to always have a tight core. You want to retract your shoulder blades and keep your chest up just like this. So you're going to have a slight arch in your back. So you're going to begin like this, and now you're going to pull yourself up by pulling your elbows back, just like that. So some common mistakes that people make whenever that they do a pull-up is that they get their they do a lot of kipping whenever they do a rep. So they're going to do a lot of swinging motion, like you see a lot of CrossFit videos like that. And for a correct pull-up, that's just not proper form, and you might end up injuring yourself whenever you're doing that. You also never want to roll your shoulder blades forward. So like this, some people, they might be hunched over whenever they're doing their pull-ups. The whole point is to keep the shoulders down and back like this while you're doing the pull-up. And that's, just so you can be a little bit more angled toward the bar, and that way you could use your lats a little bit better. And
attention all rec center patrons. Yoga and yogurt is happening right now upstairs in the multi-purpose gym. It's free yogurt, tons of toppings, and the next yoga session is from 5 to 6. Come de-stress for finals.
So, apologize for that interruption. Yeah. So, then what you're going to do... Oh, another mistake. That threw me off so much. Okay. This is going to need some serious editing. Oh yeah, another common mistake that people make whenever they're doing a pull-up, besides kipping, is they also keep their shoulders over. They hunch them forward just like this. That's not going to engage the lats as well. And they also do a lot of partial reps. So you'll see a lot of guys that, they'll do one good rep, but then they just bang out a lot of small little, pump reps, like little partial ones, just like this, keeping not a good full range of motion, but the proper way that you're supposed to do it is you're supposed to extend your arms all the way out, and then you're supposed to pull your chin all the way up over the bar. Then you return to the starting position just like that. The primary movement in the pull-up is going to be the lats right here. Latissimus dorsi. It stretches all the way from the top right here all the way into your lower back. And the secondary muscles are going to be your forearms, which you use to grip onto the bar. You always want to grip onto the bar as tight as you can in order to engage as many muscle units in the movement. You're also going to be using the bicep, since you have a lot of elbow flexion in the movement. But another mistake that I want to point out that guys make is sometimes, they rely too much on their bicep in order to do the reps. But, in order to engage the lats more, you want to focus on moving the weight by bringing your elbows down and back. Pretty much bringing them almost into your back pocket, like right here. You want to drive them back. Some other muscles include the traps, You know, you always want to keep the core tight. You engage the core a lot in order to keep the body stable. And you also engage the rhomboids, you know, the rear deltoid muscle groups, teres major, teres minor, supraspinatus, infraspinatus, and yeah, just all the muscles in the upper body posterior chain are being worked. So, as far as the breathing pattern goes, what you're going to do is you're going to inhale on the way up when you're coming up. I mean, you're going to exhale. I apologize. You're going to exhale on the way up during the concentric part of the rep. So, and then as you're coming down, that's when you inhale. So during the eccentric, that's when you take the breath in, and then coming up, that's when you exhale. So some progressions and regressions that you can do with the pull-up. First, we're going to start off with the category if you have some equipment. You know, if you have a resistance band, you know, not like one of those with the handles, but a full-on resistance band. That's a giant rubber band. You can loop it around right here at the top of the bar, place it at the bottom of your feet, you know, and the tension from the band is going to help pull you upward. So you have a bit of that force helping you. But yeah, it's a good way to progress yourself to get into normal pull-ups. And another now progression that you could do is you could do weighted pull-ups. If you have a weight belt, you know, with a chain that you could loop on plates onto, you know, you could load it up with as much resistance as you want in order to get the desired amount of reps that you want. You know, that's an excellent way to challenge yourself. It's a great way to grow your back muscle even more if regular pull-ups get too easy. So if you have a weight belt, you're in luck with that. But if you don't have equipment, which unfortunately we do not have at the moment, then you don't need to panic because there's some regressions that you could do. So we're just going to first start off. We're going to first start off with the first progression, and that's going to be the flex arm hang. And you're going to again place your palms over the bar, just like this, palms facing away. Now, since a regular pull-up is too hard, you're going to use a little bit of leg momentum, and you're going to jump right up to the bar, just like this. And you're just going to hang from the bar, just like this. And you're going to hang for as long as you can, and then you're going to drop back down. So that's the first regression.
I'm sorry, wait. You never recorded me with that much permission.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
I'm sorry. It was for class.
I'm sorry. If you have to go to the office, you can get permission for that first. I'm sorry. Just policy.
Alright.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. Okay. So now we're moving on to a push-up. So for the push-up, that's mainly going to be working out the pectoralis major, you know, and it's also going to work out a bit of the pectoralis, the clavicular head of the pec right here. And the secondary muscles are also going to be the triceps, so right here in the back of your arm. And it's also going to engage your core and your glutes, you know, to stabilize and keep your body nice and flat. And it's also going to engage your deltoids. So you want to start off the movement with your arms locked out all the way, just like this.
And I was like, do I post it?
And you want to have them at chest level, just like this. You're going to keep your core tight and your glutes tight, just like this. And you're going to descend until your nose touches the ground. And you always want to have your elbows tucked in as you do the movement, so like this. And now you're going to explode back up. You go back down, you come back up. Down, back up. Okay, so you gotta notice how I always keep my body straight whenever I'm doing the movement. You know, I keep my glutes and my abs tight, and then I explode right back up. All right. So some common mistakes that people make whenever they do these is that they like to almost do like a downward dog motion, like that yoga pose whenever, you know, they have their head up, like it's cobra, you know, when they have it up just like this. You know, they keep their glutes sagging just like this. They get a lot of hyperextension. You don't want that to happen because you don't have the body stabilized and you can't efficiently work the chest that way. So you always want to keep your glutes and your core tight just like this at all times. Another mistake is that they like to keep their hands and arms like right in front of them, a little bit too shallow like this, so right at shoulder level, and keeping it like this and going like this. It's very, very bad for the shoulders, you know, especially if you're progressing to weighted push-ups or band push-ups. You know, that puts a lot of stress on the shoulder joint right here in the rotator cuff, and you're going to have problems later on when you do that. Another common mistake that people make is that they keep the hips too high, just like this, and they make almost like a bridge. You know, that's a bit exaggerated, but something like this, and then they try and do the push-ups. You know, again, you want to keep your body nice and straight in order to efficiently work the chest that way. Always keep the core tight, glutes tight. Some progressions and regressions that you could do for the push-up are the weighted push-up, where you just add weight onto the back. You could do a band push-up, where you add a resistance band, you know, around the back, and you hook it onto your hands just like that. And a regression that you could do, like, let's say if push-ups are too hard, so you could do an incline push-up just like this. You know, you can put your arms on a banister like this, like so, and you're just going to lower yourself down, come right back up. So just like that, that's good progression for beginners when you're just starting out. Ricky, bring me the band. So I managed to get a resistance band. You're going to place it on your back just like this. We're going to keep it at chest level. Core tight, abs tight. You always want to keep the head neutral. You're going to go down, come right back up, down, up, down, and up. So that makes it a little harder because you got the band tension as resistance. Like I said before, you can add a plate on it. Hey Professor, we're here live from my mom's basement. So we're going to finish up this video by demonstrating the deadlift and listing all the prime movers, you know, proper form, all the mistakes that people can make, you know, progressions, regressions, and last but not least, the breathing patterns. So we're going to start off with the proper form. So what you want to do is, for a proper setup, you're going to want to have the bar out in front of you. You know, you could either use a double overhand, double underhand grip, but for the strongest grip possible, I would use a combination of an overhand and an underhand, just like this, when I get comfortable. You know, of course, the bar would be on the ground with the plates. What you want to focus on is making sure that you keep the shoulders down and back at all times, and you're going to stick your hips out. So by doing this, you're going to keep a nice neutral spine. So you want to have your feet together, you know, roughly a little bit less than shoulder width apart, just like this. You want to get a nice narrow stance, so that way you're really able to drive through the heels. So I got my hips out, got my shoulders down and back, just like this. And now I'm going to be keeping my head neutral with my spine, like so. And I want to grip the bar as tight as I can, just like this. So I literally want to squeeze the bar when I'm starting the movement until I lock out. So literally squeezing that bar as tight as possible. So squeezing bar, shoulders down and back, chest up, head neutral, hips back. Your legs want to be at around a 45-degree angle, just as you see me have here. So we have all this going on for the setup. And now you want to start off the movement by embracing the core as tight as you can and then driving through your heels. So I'm driving through my heels, and as I'm extending, you know, I always want to keep my shoulders down and back as I'm pushing through and I'm extending my body. And now whenever the bar reaches shin level, right around here, this is when I'm going to drive my hips forward like this. And I'm going to drive my hips toward the bar. And then I stand up with the weight, drive my hips forward. And I'm going to let my head, you know, lead naturally. Oops. My head is going to be straight, you know, as I lock out the movement. You know, I start off with my head neutral, but as I begin bringing my body upward and locking it out, I'm going to be bringing it up just like this. So it's important to really stay tight throughout the entire movement. And yeah, just to really have as much tension throughout the body while keeping the shoulders down and back as much as possible. So that's the proper technique for it. The prime movers involved in the deadlift are definitely literally every single muscle in the posterior chain. I consider it a prime mover. You know, especially the lats, the latissimus dorsi, the glutes, the hamstrings for sure, and also the quadriceps. You know, it's a very big muscle that's used initially when you're getting the bar off the ground and up to shin level. So that muscle group is definitely going to be greatly activated. You know, but other secondary muscles are also going to be the forearms, you know, because that's what's pretty much gripping onto the bar. And you also are using your traps right here as a stabilizer. You know, all that weight is really bringing you down, and you know, you have to use your traps in order to you know, be able to grab onto the weight and really stabilize it. You're also going to be using your core a lot. You know, that's definitely a secondary muscle that's supporting the trunk right here. You know, you're creating a lot of pressure to keep the body stable, and the core is also very important in protecting the lower back. So you got your upper back tight, your core tight. You know, it's really rigid, and I'm not going to be able to move around that much because it's protecting me and it's really tight. So those are the primary muscles that I can think of. Some common mistakes that are made in the deadlift. Would have demonstrated it with the bar. You know, sometimes, you know, some gym bros that don't really know how to use proper form, sometimes, you might see them rounding their back just like this. Let me just get a better image. All right. So sometimes you see them rounding their backs like this, you know, and they're just picking their weight up and down, you know, just like this, doing sloppy form. But that's extremely bad for your back, because that's going to put a lot of pressure right here on the lower spine. And you could really get a herniated disc that way. You know, you might develop problems like scoliosis and other bad things that aren't going to build muscle and are only going to end up injuring you in the end. So that's definitely not good. That's why you got to keep the head up. The chest up, the shoulders down and back. You know, you never want to drop that head forward either. That's really bad. You know, you want to you want to keep it neutral when you're starting off, and then slowly raise it as you're standing up, and then you want to actually have it fully front, you know, facing forward when you actually lock out. So those are a couple of mistakes. Another big mistake, you know, it's not as much of a big one as the other ones that I've stated before, that people might drop their chins, rounding their lower back. And another big one is also some people, you know, they don't stick their hips out that much. You know, they might just casually bring them back slightly, you know, kind of goes in with the upper back, you know, rounding like that. When you don't stick your hips out, you're going to round your back. You want to make sure that you keep your head and chest up and stick the hips out, just like that. So hips out, head up, head, you know, neutral, and chest up. So, you know, those are the biggest mistake. I was going to say that. Another big mistake that I see, it's not as big, but it's still incredibly important. And this is why I believe that, personally, the latissimus dorsi, the back, the lats here, are a very important muscle. And it's for this reason, is that some people, you know, that really know proper form, they put their shoulders down and back, and they stick their hips out, and that's wonderful and everything. But then they move the bar, and the bar is a considerate amount of distance away from them, like this. So they move the bar, and the bar is almost, you know, hovering almost in front of them. You know, they have this bit of a gap right here. And, you know, they continue the movement. They may not injure themselves, but they're also cutting themselves short on the amount of weight that they could use, and also the amount of force that they could produce, because they're not really engaging the lats that way. You know, they're going to be engaged a little bit, but not to the full potential that they could actually be. So, in order to fix that and get more power, activate more muscle, and of course build more strength, along with staying more rigid, you know, and tight, what we're going to do is, to fix that, we're going to really put our shoulders down and back, but make sure that we're doing it to our full potential. So yes, shoulders down and back, but you want them to be so far down and back that the bar is literally grinding against your shins like this. So you should literally want to put your shoulders in your back pocket. Like I said before with the chin up, you know, that's also a really big movement in the back. Any kind of back exercise that you're doing, you always want to take the shoulders and put them down and back into your back pocket. That's an excellent cue to remember for any kind of back exercise. So by doing that, the bar is going to drag on your shin, and then you're going to be able to fully lock it out. It's going to drag along your entire body, not just your shin, but it ensures that you're using, you're getting the most out of your lats. So that's that. You know, outside of mistakes that are made, we also have to keep in mind the breathing pattern and the progressions and regressions. So we'll get into the progressions and regressions. So for that, as far as the deadlift goes, you know, you want to kind of keep the size of the plate the same as much as possible, just because I find that, you know, with 25s, Some people have to get a little bit lower for that. They have to drop their hips lower. You know, Sometimes it may be the rare case that they don't have the mobility for that. So, in order to avoid that, and just to kind of get them used to the height of a standard 45-pound plate, if you have Olympic plates, this is when this becomes very useful because Olympic plates are all the same size. So if you could get your hands on some 10-pound or even 5-pound Olympic plates are out there, but even if even a 10-pound Olympic plate will work fine, or like a 25 if they're a little stronger. But I suggest using a 10-pound. Start out with a 10-pound Olympic plate. Definitely do a lot of reps initially. High volume but low weight. You want to have them doing a lot of reps in order to get that movement pattern ingrained in their head. And then as they progress, I would say increase the amount of sets but decrease the amount of reps, but definitely increase the amount of excuse me, increase the amount of weight. Really jack that weight up, really challenge their central nervous system and really get them to develop that strength that their muscles are capable of. Other variations that I guess I could throw into the progression or regression are rack pulls. In a squat rack, you just set up the pins to about shin level, a little below that. So you're going to have the bar right there. You're going to bend down a little bit, and then you're going to be literally just picking the bar up, using the deadlift form, shoulders down and back, everything else, but it's only going to be the top part of the movement, just like this. You could also do block pulls. Oh no, I'm sorry. Deficit deadlifts. Yeah, deficit deadlifts are another great assistance exercise where you would stand on a 45 or two 45s, as high as you want to go, stand on some plates, and you would just grab the bar and you would do a regular deadlift that way. It increases the range of motion, and that's good if your sticking point is initially getting the bar off the ground. So lastly, a good kind of progression to challenge yourself a little bit more and break past your sticking points are to do pause deadlifts. And the way that you do those is literally just a regular deadlift, except you're going to pull it, you're going to pause at the shin, for 1, 2, 3 seconds, as many as you want, as long as you can handle it with that weight. Pause at the shin, lock out at the top, and repeat it. You go down, regular deadlift, pause at the top. I find that those are really good, to break past the sticking point, but also I would say that it's really good for kind of correcting form a little bit, even in advanced athletes. Like, for me, myself, it definitely reinforces the fact that I have to stay tight throughout the entire movement, and doing pause reps, with handling a bit of a lighter load really allows me to pause, think about the movement as much as I can during that moment, stay tight, making sure that my core is tight, shoulders are down and back, that I'm squeezing that bar, really being in that moment, in that split second, making sure that I'm recruiting as much muscle as possible there, and then exploding back up. So, lastly, the breathing pattern, it's pretty simple. It's a little bit different since this is a really big strength movement, and for big strength movements, you kind of want to do what's called the Valsalva maneuver. That's where you hold your breath initially, and then as you're locking the weight out, that's when you let it out. So I would say you're doing the movement like this: shoulders down and back, hips out, grip the bar tight, head neutral, chest up, and you would start the movement. You would suck in as much air as you can, really expand that belly, brace that core, and then you're going to hold your breath and you're going to push up to shin level. And then as you're locking the weight out, that's when you breathe out. And then you breathe in as you're putting it back down, and again, brace that core, hold that breath up to the shin, and then let it out as you lock it out. Just like that. So always keep that core tight. Inhale on the way down. Hold that breath coming up to the shin, and then exhale when you're locking it out. All right. Those are my tips on the deadlift. Hopefully you like them. And thank you very much for all that you've taught me. You know, I really enjoyed your. So I just want to say thank you for all that you've taught me. You know, I definitely really enjoyed your class. I learned a lot, and it's definitely a lot of things and, you know, just tips in general for not just my career, but my entire life. And yeah, it's had a pretty big influence. So I definitely hope you're using a lot of that, and I definitely won't forget you. Thank you, Professor. So it's going to look like this. Oh shit, I can't do a rep because if I go, then my head's going to bang on top.
Yeah. Let's try it again.
All right.